We are Ole Miss Rebels. As Mississippi's flagship university, we dig deeper, see farther, work harder. We pioneered human organ transplants. We helped prove Einstein's theory of gravitational waves. We are conducting life-changing research that solves the problems of today. We are Ole Miss, transforming lives and the world.
Hey, welcome to the POMcast with Stephen Willis. We're going to start in a few minutes, but I want to tell you to hit up our social sites, retweet, share, comment, like, do all of that stuff. It can only help us out and it'll make the show even better. But we're getting ready to give you a lot of good Ole Miss information, and I just thought I would tell you that because the POMcast is starting. Well, it's starting right now. Wait, no, that's a little early. It is starting right about now. Good morning. Welcome. It is Thursday morning. Thank you for tuning into the POMcast. I'm your host, Stephen Willis. Before we get started on this jam-packed show, I do want to tell you about Travel and Cruise World. You can catch them at 1-800-330-7461. That is 1-800-330-7461. Basically, what I was trying to do is we've been dealing with this for 18 months. And everybody needs a resource for travel because all the rules are different. This can put a person on the ground in Central Florida for your vacation. You can find out where masks might be required indoors at Disney. It might not be required at all at Universal. And all these businesses around. The best part about it is they can get you the same price you can online. Give them a call, 1-800-330-7461, 1-800-7461. That's travelandcruiseworld.com. See Central Florida like a local. Down below you can see our podcast. Search Positively Ole Miss. Leave a 5-star review. You can say whatever you want to. Just leave a 5-star review. Also, if you want to watch the show, you can catch us on Twitter at the Stephen Willis or at Ole Positively. You can catch us on Facebook at facebook.com/POMcast. You can catch us on YouTube at Positively Ole Miss. Subscribe and hit the bell. This is the best notification system out there. Doesn't matter how you watch the show, subscribe to the YouTube channel. You'll not only know that we're streaming, you'll know what we're streaming about. And we're on Twitch at Positively Ole Miss. How you doing, Guy? Yeah, it's kind of a freeze warning in Oxford this weekend. We also have the DGD podcast coming in the chat. Y'all can't see what's chatting, but I can see everything that goes into the chat. Just a heads up for everybody that wants to participate. So this show can be interactive even though you can't exactly see it. So that's the way this works for our new audience that are coming in. We have the DGD podcast that is echoing this show right now. It's going out on his channel as well. We want to say we appreciate that and thank you very much for him doing that. So we're getting the word out. Today, we're going to talk about the injuries a little bit on the offense and kind of what is happening and what is causing it. Maybe what do we do from here? Then we're going to look at the young wide receivers and we're going to go around the league a little bit on today's show. So it should be a lot of fun there. Looking at Vegas lines, Ole Miss is anywhere from 10 points favorite at the MGM to 8.5. 8.5 at FanDuel. So depending on where you can get it anywhere in between there. So that's what we're looking at. Mississippi State and Arkansas, I'm looking forward to that game. Kentucky, Tennessee, really looking forward to that game. We'll talk about that in a little bit as well. Also, we'll talk about in the show today how last night's SEC After Dark ended up on 27 channels as we go through our echoing and building that up. 27 channels, all carried it on their brand, their podcast. Just basically, we're trying to blow up the algorithm at your YouTube, and we're just building this up slowly. Like, there's 7 different YouTube channels that carried SEC After Dark last night. And whenever you search SEC After Dark, all of those come up. So it's pretty cool. So it's a way we can blow up the algorithm and make sure the content gets put up regardless of what you search. Are you a Georgia fan? Are you an Ole Miss fan? Are you an AM fan? Well, SEC After Dark is going to hit them all because we're pairing them all, and they're team specific, kind of. when it comes to SEO and search. Yeah, really good to have you, DGD Podcast. Our little experiment that we've got going over the next few months. We have a major expansion coming up. Probably going to start after the new year, but for the next 2 months, we're going to kind of be beta testing. So you'll see on our channels the One Team One podcast today, the DGD podcast. Also, Friday is a special Veterans Day show for the DGD podcast. I don't know exactly what that entails, but it might be worth tuning in as a Navy vet. I'm interested to see what he does there. I may not be all on those podcasts, but you check them out because they're going to be entertaining. The DGD stuff and the One Team stuff and the Biscuits and SEC and everything, it's all part of the On Top network that we are a part of. We haven't really placed that because we've been kind of building it up and figuring out what we're going to do. And our first step was with pairing these shows. So, now, Lane Kiffin said that 9 out of 11 starters from the beginning of the season did not practice yesterday. I'm assuming the 2 that practiced yesterday were offensive linemen. Maybe a running back. I mean, it could have been, I don't know which running back he considers as the starter, but probably an offensive lineman like Nick Broker, maybe a Jeremy James. Maybe it was Nick Broker and Jeremy James. Who knows? But the fact of the matter is the offense sputtered against Auburn because the offense wasn't there against Auburn. I mean, you had no starting wide receivers. You had no starting tight end. All Auburn had to do was concentrating on stopping the run game, and you had a couple of walk-ons running routes, which I'm perfectly okay with that. Casey Kelly is a heck of a player. Ja'Cour Pearson played a great game, but Ja'Cour Pearson, let's just be honest, should be the 4th or 5th option at wide receiver. He should not be your go-to. He's 5'6" or 5'7". He's a little bitty guy. He shouldn't be playing on the outside, but it is what it is because they had to do that. They had to figure out, how do we get our best guys on the field? And because of that, whenever they're trying to in the weeds doing that, they were scared of Auburn. They really were. They weren't going to do anything drastic against Auburn, because Auburn was a team that could beat you. So you end up with, Dennis and Jaden Jackson out playing wide receiver, John Rice playing a ton in the slot. Then you had Ja'Cour on the outside, and it is what it is. Liberty is not really that same animal. So you have a chance to, if healthy. Now I say if healthy because these guys do not talk about injuries. You can find out nothing. Basically, when the game starts, you find out if they're dressed, and then if they play, and then half the time you're wrong. Everybody was really excited last week because Braylon Sanders was dressed out. He played like 4 snaps because he couldn't cut. And because of all of that going, I think Ole Miss should sit down the wide receivers this week. Don Terry or Braylon, Jonathan, even if you're close to being able to play, you're not playing this weekend. We're treating this as a de facto bye week for the people that are injured. And put the young guys in there. I guarantee you Braylon Brown, J.J. Henry, and Brandon Buckhalter would start at Liberty. That's the athletes that are going up there. Now, Liberty's a good team. I'm not saying they're not a good team. But simplify the offense, concentrate on the run game. Rich Rod at Louisiana Monroe beat Liberty. Ole Miss runs the Rich Rod style run game. A lot of that stuff is similar, the same stuff. That's the reason we translate it so well whenever Lane Kiffin came in, because we were already ahead of the curve in zone blocking and things like that. So, my thoughts are just to rest those guys. Get them ready for A&M, or get them as ready for A&M as they get, because if they play against Liberty, that's going to stunt their recovery. It's going to make them a little bit worse. Then all of a sudden Texas A&M becomes an issue. Then all of a sudden Vandy becomes an issue. Then all of a sudden the Egg Bowl becomes an issue. Sit them now. Beware with what it is. It's one of those, it is what it is. And I would take this a step further. I would sit Matt Corral. Let him get as healthy as he can get for A&M. Just have him sit up in a leg boot, Because if he plays and takes a hit, all of a sudden you're back in square one with what's going on. We've all had an ankle. We've all had an ankle injury. Our right ankle, our left ankle. We realize whenever you hit it and bend it and tweak it, it kind of sets you back about a week almost. So put him in a walking boot. Let him recover and get him ready for A&M, because that's the important game moving up on the schedule. We should be able to take care of Liberty. Everybody's scared of Liberty. Liberty's a good team. I'm not saying anything different. But Ole Miss should have the talent, even without Matt Corral, to take care of Liberty. With those stable of running backs, feed them. Run some Wildcat stuff with John Rice Plumlee. Run Luke Altmaier, let him perform. Just be careful. Do what you're supposed to do. Let him play. He was the guy that came in and settled the game down against Auburn. If it wasn't for him, Ole Miss would have gotten boat raced on the Plains. I hope everybody realizes that. And that was just a major moment for his development. I can't believe how confident he should be moving into the game. Give him a shot. Let Matt Corral be the emergency quarterback to where he won't even go in unless it's necessary. But handle that. Now, you look at the wide receiver position. You have Brandon Buckhalter, J.J. Henry, and Braylon Brown. And I've told y'all over and over again, in a normal recruiting cycle where Braylon Brown could be tested and do all the stuff that they did through analytics, this guy would have been a 5-star by the time he left. Ole Miss got him because they didn't do it. And you find a diamond in the rough type player. Braylon Brown's a heck of a player. And he was having an unbelievable camp and he got hurt. And that kind of put him behind the 8 ball. And you have guys that are scared to death. Because remember, the most risk-averse people in the world is a football coach. It just absolutely is what it is. These are people that want to see you do it 450 hours on film before they can make a decision on it. I mean, it unbelievably risk of adverse. And you can look at these football coaches, they need all of that to make a decision because they want consistency. They want predictability. They don't necessarily want you to be good or bad. They want predictability. That's what they're playing for because they're so risk averse. And these young guys, there might be some bust. There might be something that comes up. Something that causes them to perform a little bit differently. You have to get over that hiccup. You have to understand that because the worst thing that can happen, we've seen what we had from our second string against Auburn and even before that. We struggled against Tennessee. We actually struggled throwing the ball against LSU, and we struggled against Auburn because of the second group. Not disparaging any athletes, but that's the truth of what's happening. Are you telling me that you can't do the same thing with those young guys? Because at least then you get some development. You speed their growth. And it's one of those things, I think it was, what game was that? It might have been like Southeast Missouri State, Elijah Moore early. It was one of the games I think we scored 70 against, maybe Kent State. A long pass was completed to Elijah Moore as a true freshman. And you're like, wow, okay. This guy kind of gets it. And he moved forward and he started growing and growing and growing. And the Elijah Moore that we knew became the Elijah Moore that was. And everybody else saw that as well. And that all came from those early playing time growths. Yeah, I mean, people say you grow in practice. You don't grow in practice. You get the framework of what's supposed to be done in practice. But whenever you get on the field, it's a little bit different animal. Whenever you're going against somebody that's legit trying to stop you, whenever there's not ancillary goals to the wide receiver group and the DB group and everything else, whenever it's just win this play, it becomes a different animal. The speed of the game changes. Everything changes. And it can be tough on these young guys to do it. But the only way to do it is to do it. The only way you can adjust to that speed is to do it. And I would like to see Brandon Buckhalter, Braylon Brown, and J.J. Henry play against Liberty this weekend. I don't care if it's just for 2 series. I want to see them on the field. And that's the way I feel about that. So that covers our injuries and everything that's going on. We're also going to talk now about a little bit around the league, kind of. And I'm going to bring up the Yahoo Sports schedule because, honestly, I used to work at Rivals, and I still like doing Yahoo type stuff, even though Yahoo doesn't own them anymore. So after 7 years up there, they finally got their brand through, kind of, with Yahoo Sports. But I like their schedule. I like what's going on with that. And you can see how it looks. So on SEC After Dark, we're going to talk about that in a little bit today. We went through all our picks. You want to see our picks, you can catch it on SEC After Dark. It's there at the end. It's about the last 15 minutes. But basically, I'll go through again. Missouri versus Georgia. Missouri has the worst run defense I've ever seen. Period. Ole Miss fan, the whole 9 yards. The worst run defense I've ever seen. Vandy ran for 260 against them last week. Could have gotten 3 bills against them, but kind of fell behind the 8 ball and had to throw the ball a little bit. So I expect Georgia to cover any line that is put in front of them. This line could be 50 points. I expect that because they're going to hand it to Zaire White. They're going to hand it to James Cook, the Kendall Milton kid, all those guys, and they're just going to run all over Missouri. Now, when I watched Missouri versus A&M, because, I'm a masochist and do things like that, A&M in the first quarter had 10 carries for 160 yards. And they weren't chunk plays. It wasn't like a 90-yard plays and everything got to get normal. No, it was like 10, 15 yards per play. It was a consistently just chewing up beatdown. And it was just unbelievably sad to see. And I would take Georgia against any amount of points you want to put in front of me. You want to make that line 60 points? Let's do it. Just because Missouri can't stop the run, and against Georgia, that's just suicide. Liberty and Ole Miss, 11 o'clock on the SEC Network. We've covered this game ad nauseum. I expect Ole Miss to cover this one as well. Texas A&M versus Auburn. Because Ole Miss was so light on offensive players last weekend, I think Texas A&M has a chance to do some really good things in this game. I think A-Chain and Isaiah Spiller are going to have a little bit of a day. And I'm kind of looking forward to seeing this game. Mississippi State and Arkansas. This is a game where I expect Arkansas to get right. This is not rivalry specific or anything like that. But they should be just getting over the Ole Miss loss and the loss of Jalen Catalon, which happened simultaneously. So I expect a good performance by the Razorbacks. A lot of drop 8. Tennessee and Kentucky, take Tennessee straight up in this game. Tennessee can score more than Kentucky. If they both have their foot on the gas, Tennessee can absolutely outscore Kentucky. Hendon Hooker is a criminally underrated quarterback. Alabama and LSU that night is a blowout. Give me whatever the line is against Alabama's favored by. Give me the points. Or not give me the points. Take the points. LSU can be a 45-point underdog, and it's just not going to matter in this game. And Florida and South Carolina, both 4-4 teams. Florida is 2-7 against the Power 5, going back 9 games. I want to say those stats because we're running out of times to do that. Because as I learned from my favorite joke of all time was that the Atlantic would beat Florida before Kentucky did, and Dan Mullen ruined that. And I don't know if I'll ever forgive him for that, but I expect Florida to win. They're favored by 18 points. So that is a look around the league real quick and what you can look forward to. Now, last night we were streamed on 27 channels around the internet on all social medias and as a part of our growing brand around echoing. I'll call it echoing. some people call it pairing. I call it echoing because it becomes our thing. Trying to brand it as that. And we are at SEC After Dark. If you search SEC After Dark 11-3, you end up with like 5 or 6 search results from last night just on YouTube. Now, we did the same thing on Twitter. We did the same thing on Twitch. We did the same thing on Facebook. And it allows us to put our content, basically, we've always been about a shotgun method to content here. We're not trying to get rich. We're just trying to get information that is enjoyable out there. You don't have to hear from agendas. You don't have to hear people that need the content to make money. Everything they do is about making money. And this just provides an avenue that's a little bit different. Tonight we have the One Team, One Podcast. We have, like I said, the Veterans Day show from DGD Podcast showing up. And you're going to start to see a variety of content on our channel. We already had the Biscuits and SEC preview, but other people are picking that up. We're looking somewhere near 30 channels that is going to carry that this week. And we're going to keep growing it. We're going to try and figure out how many channels we can echo at one time. And we're going to work. And in January, we're going to start kind of selling off of it. And basically our idea is that, let's say the DGD podcast wants to sell an ad on Biscuits and SEC. He runs Biscuits and SEC every Friday. He wants to sell an ad on it. He can. You pay the 2 hosts a share. The station my channel gets a share, and then you get another share. So you'd be getting 25% of what's sold in that case. SEC After Dark would be a little bit different because it'd be like 6 shares. But that is the idea, that you can basically sell off this content and treat it like syndicated material. Treat it like part of your channel. And it shows up on your channel when we echo this. It shows up as your podcast, your show. The thing that the byline that goes below is yours. Your analytics are going to pop up. So we're pretty excited about this, really. We just have been dipping our toe in the water, and then all of a sudden over the last 3 months it started coming together. And over the last month, when I started echoing, we got an idea of what could work and what could not work. And now we're starting to expand that even a little bit more, and we're going to expand it again. And hopefully by January we'll be where we want to be, to where we can actually take care of everything that we need to take care of. Now, I'm going to give you a couple minutes back because it's Liberty Week and everybody's probably had a rough weekend. I do want to thank everybody for tuning in and checking in with Ole Miss football. Thank you very much for watching. Thanks for bearing with us. December, the schedule is going to become a little bit erratic. But by SEC conference play and basketball, we should be good to go. But thank you for tuning in, and we'll see you tomorrow. Hotty toddy.